So let's break down the East right now while we have those series prices now available. Are you of the belief that the Florida Panthers continue to be disrespected in the market after back-to-back series upsets over the prior Stanley Cup favorites? Now they're getting another team who's the current Stanley Cup favorite in the Carolina Hurricanes here. Hurricanes about $1.30 favorite there heading in to that series. We're waiting on the schedule, but it will be the Canes as a short favorite.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily say they're getting disrespected in this first game in this series because, look, the Hurricanes, to a lot of people's dismay, have looked fantastic. This team was a squad that we kind of pegged as the one true competitor that could maybe overcome the Boston Bruins, but then we saw them suffer some injuries along the way, and a lot of people, myself included, lost faith in this Carolina team. But they obviously cruised in the first round, did tremendous against the Devils in round number 2. So because of the way they won versus Florida, a team that kind of snuck in here, went to Game 7 against the Bruins, and even though it was an impressive series against the Maple Leafs, you still have that in the back of your mind. All of that adds up to, yes, Carolina, and with the home ice advantage being the favorite. So I think the price makes sense. But I still think it's attractive on the side of Florida because the big difference now for Florida, why leading up to this point you could look to invest in them, has been Sergei Bobrovsky, right? I mean, I think he won a couple Vezina trophies. I think he's got 2 under his belt. And when he came over to Florida, they obviously had a big contract for him, and the man never lived up to that hype. And that's really what's been disappointing out of him and this Panthers team. Offensively, you know what they were capable of. They've always had a really strong offense. It's been the goaltending and the defense that has held them back. And now, out of nowhere, you got it from Alex Lyon, the backup to get you into the postseason. And now it's been Sergei Bobrovsky, the veteran, in the postseason, which is great. That's what you've wanted. So there's not really a clear goaltending advantage one way or the other because Freddie Anderson for the Hurricanes, he's been a stud himself. But you factor in even strength goaltending-wise, how the Panthers have looked, what the price is, and why most people, myself included, would give them a nod offensively. It's hard to ignore the attraction to the Florida Panthers here, Ben. But Andy McNeil, my co-host on the podcast, made a good point yesterday, kind of because it's not like they're a huge dog on the series price, and it's kind of similar to their game 1 number. I think it's probably better just to look to bet the Panthers game by game instead of looking at the series price. Because if you bet them game 1, awesome, you're cashing them at an underdog price. If you don't, or if you do and they lose, whatever it may be, then you're going to get an even bigger price to perhaps bounce back on them for the adjusted series number if you still have faith in this team. So I'm going to be leaning toward the side of Florida for game 1 and the series. Probably will end up on them for game 1. But again, like you mentioned, we'll have an episode out tomorrow and we'll be expounding on that further with some of our picks. But again, it's hard to ignore the dominance of this Panthers team throughout the postseason thus far, Ben.
Yeah, game 1 set for Tuesday, and it's the exact same line as far as the game 1 line as the series price right now. Carolina minus 130, plus 110 there on the Panthers. And the perception, at least if you go on the game 1 line, 5.5 on a total where Carolina scored 37. It was the combined goals in the series, 37, and the Devils, only a 5-game series, they put up 37. So how are you imagining this goes, just from the total perspective and that you're looking at the game flow? Because I see 33.5 as the combined series goals right now, and I'm very tempted to take over simply because I'm a believer this looks like a 6 or 7 game series on paper. That is the favored outcome if you're looking at the total games market, 2-1 on each of those bets. 33.5 seems like a very reasonable number if you view this series to go long.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, if you think that this is going to be a longer series, then for sure you'd have to look toward the over. But again, if we're kind of just honing it down in terms of goaltending, when you look at these numbers throughout the postseason for all qualifying goalies, second and third ranked goalies in goal save above expected belong to Sergei Bobrovsky, 8.62 goal save above expected. And then behind him is Frederik Andersen at 5.48. So, again, maybe your fear is if it does go long, it's just short scoring in every single game. Realistically, that's probably not going to be the case. But you're probably continuously going to see these totals at 5.5 every single game. So if you are looking to back and under, I don't think you take that route, the one you were mentioning for the full series, because of how deep it can go. You probably just want to bet it game by game and sweat out the unders in that situation instead. Or maybe even look at first period unders if you have some trepidation with the empty nets at the end. But yeah, if you're looking for anything with the unders, that's the way to approach it, as opposed to kind of a longer route to getting there with the total goals in the series.
Yeah, it's like a pseudo grand salami, a way to bet just with the individual series. And you risk, like, say the last series for the Hurricanes, they had a 12 goal game. So that could quickly be, and that's why I was looking, if anything, I just look at the over. You think maybe one of those games gets out of hand and you expect a deep series. That could be one of the angles to look, while at the same time believing in the goaltending being above average for the most part heading into that series.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.